I'ma chase success with Global.Media.com. Let's celebrate it with or without champagne or rum.
Lisa, your LinkedIn's falling off again. I'm going to reconnect you very quickly.
Yeah, see, StreamYard, oh my gosh, it never fails.
I don't know why you was
Yeah,
off.
always, yeah, that's all right. StreamYard and LinkedIn, I swear, have menopause. I need to have a session with them because it never fails.
It's something you can do in the background that you're not telling us.
Sorry?
Normally something's going on somewhere. That's why I don't know what it is.
Okay. Well, we're live somewhere. But welcome everyone to another session where we talk about a topic related to perimenopause and menopause. And today is going to be very, very special, where we're talking to the men who have to deal with us women in menopause. Oh, but I'm really excited. When I was planning this event, I know November is Men's Health Month, and I wanted to sort of tie it back into menopause. And luckily, I have really great people in my LinkedIn community who agreed to be on the stage and part of this panel. So really excited to get started. We have 2 persons missing, but that's okay. They can join in when they get here. So what I'll do is I will pass the mic to, and I'm having an echo. See, Lord, technology does not like me. But let me pass the mic to Sean to introduce himself, and let's get things started.
Oh, it automatically muted. Cool, that's handy. So I'm Sean Michael. I go by the title Identity Disruptor and Inner Potential Activator, which is really just another way to say I help people rediscover who they are underneath all the roles they play in life. I've often seen how life transitions, whether it's career shift, midlife disruption, or in this case, peri or menopause, tests not just our bodies, but our sense of identity. It's not just hormone changes, it can be an existential shift. And in a relationship, when one partner is going through something that is actually reshaping who they are, I have found that it affects both people. But so infrequently, and thank you, Lisa, for bringing this isn't the first time you brought men in to talk about this, how it affects both partners, not just the one dealing with it. Because I hope today's conversation will help open up a deeper understanding, more discussion on this, of how partners can support each other through this transition. Not just the physical, but emotional, relational, etc. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. And sometimes there are more men in the room for my shows than women, which always surprises me, but I'm really, really grateful that men and that everyone finds my space to be safe enough to have the conversation, to show up. So I'm really grateful for that. David, you're up next.
Well, how's everybody doing today? My name is David Jones, CEO, owner of the Hello LLC. Hello stands for helping entrepreneurs leverage leading edge optimizations. And really, we help the people and organizations pivot from 2D to 3D. And today's conversation is an amazing conversation. I've always tuned in on Lisa's conversations, and it intrigues me that a lot of men, use this as woohoo or the feelings and the vibration, and it's so true. And yes, men also experience a similar thing called andropause, which is male menopause. So we both go through it, maybe not as an extreme, but it comes down to communication. It comes down to grace. And it really comes down to being open-minded, because I know for me as a man, this goes along, the woman's, monthly cycle, the woman thing, and we really don't want to talk about it. But we have to talk about it because communication is key. And especially in a marriage, you got to be able to help that other person, as they say, till death do us part. So buckle up, buttercups, because it lasts for 7 to 14 years and the average age is at 51. And so we're all going through these changes and stuff. And so we just got to be open to it. So I'm excited for this conversation, for us all to be open and not, be, oh, no, that's not true. And just be, as always, facts over our feelings.
I love that you shared that, David, that we need to talk about it. I know my friend Annie never wants to talk about it. He rather hide under the covers, but no, you're right. We need to talk about it. And some of the facts you're quoting actually need to change because we're younger and younger women are starting menopause. I started in my 30s. So that age of 51, I think but it comes with research. Black women start a lot younger. So this is why we need to have these conversations. We need to spread the word. But I know you've always shown up for my shows. So thank you for that. I really appreciate when you and Tara show up on support. And you all are great. I mean, you all are like ideal couple goals. So I'm really excited to talk to you in a bit about that. Annie, my friend, you are next.
Yeah. Tell you, Sean and David spoke to that like proper good guests. And don't expect me to be sensible, right? Now, look, I'm a victim. I'm a long-suffering husband. So, menopause, I see from the side I see from. You see, now, I've learned to say these days to everyone. I've been saying that we've been together for 34 years, but I could easily be divorced tomorrow. That's how I see it, because everything is so. Anyway. I guess subject to mood, subject to flippant, instant craziness. So I'll share some of that craziness with you. I'll tell you some of the truths and the way I see it. What you take away from it, you do, my friends, you do, right? What do I do, Lisa? I publish books. I help people write their books, help them to achieve legendary status. So whether that's the #1 Amazon bestseller or by making them famous and putting them on TV, say radio. My next big thing is putting people on stages. So Paulette and I have got to author speakers event on the 26th of January, where authors are going to come and share their message to inspire people. Paulette's like, what date? Yes, Paulette. Anyway, so I've got many things going on. But let's not for now. So I'm sitting here in my Wellington boots. That's a whole different story. I got some appreciation from the wife today. She's like, you're so good. I'm like, oh, really? Me? Paulette knows the slumming it I'm doing right now, but no one else does. If you want to know, then let's have a one-to-one. I'll tell you my troubles that my wife appreciates. It gives me joy. It buys me some peace for a few days, right? But I'm not there. I am away from home for about 6 weeks. Let's welcome Crystal. Crystal, how are you doing? Welcome. So, Jerick, I see you as well. I'm glad you're here. Crystal with me to her YouTube friends. Amber, welcome. Anyone else who's here, please do say hi. If you don't say something in the comments, I can see you're here. But I don't know. I can't see your name, basically. Say something, then I can welcome you properly, because we appreciate you spending your time with us. I am the sideshow in this show. So, but let's pass the mic to the superstar Paulette to tell you about her greatness, for she's great.
And I've got a wonky bum. So
yeah, let's not talk about that, Paulette.
We're not going to talk about that. No, that's my personal deformity, not to be discussed in public. So, yeah, my name is Paulette Helen. Most people know me around here anyway. I worked with families, and family counselling can be very, very difficult because as a business mediator, I could take on the world. Because you could have directors and shareholders and all kinds of people sitting around a table with multi-million-pound deals at hand, and everyone had an invested part of the pie. When you're talking about family counselling, you're talking about generally a husband and a wife, and there have been changes in their relationship. Now, nobody had ever discussed menopause. Nobody had ever discussed their age. Nobody ever discusses why they seem to be arguing more, what time of the month these arguments might be happening, or whether or not there is something more long-term going on. And over the course of time, I began to realize that men are not really in tune with their partner's menstrual cycle as a rule. They are certainly not aware of the early symptoms of menopause, and they certainly are unappreciative of what it actually does to the female. Now, that isn't their fault if they aren't educated in this area, have the knowledge in this area, or have sought to seek that knowledge out. And unless you know to look, and unless it was discussed in your family, unless it was one of those things like any, bring the carpet up or bring the blanket up and hide, you don't discuss that stuff in public. So your son grew up not discussing it, not knowing about it. So then he's suddenly become a 35-year-old man or a 40-year-old man, and his marriage is going to pot and he doesn't know why. And he's saying, I haven't changed. I haven't done anything different. All I want is sex once a week and an easy life. And the wife's going, I think you'll find it's a bit more than that, and then you start to understand this huge dynamics of what actually is wrong with the marriage. And what's wrong is communication. And what's wrong is understanding. And a lot of it is about the human body. And people think that arguing and communication starts with the mind. And I believe it starts with the body. So the mind is only a part of the body. And when the body starts to fail or things are changing, and when I say fail, I don't mean fail as in like broken hips and things. I mean fail as in it's suddenly making a difference, either a menstrual cycle or menopause, andropause, or perimenopause, or whatever these changes are. They are a failing to what you're used to. So your norm is X, and all of a sudden there's this huge spike, and no one knows why. But she's ratty, she's grumpy, there's no sex on Friday, and basically she don't want to know. And you don't know what happened because you're being the same you. And the difference is that that same you hasn't noticed there's been a slight change in her. And I remember one lady saying to me, I barely eat anything because I'm so worried about putting on any more weight. And she'd put on weight during her menopause, and it had really messed with her head. And she was practically not eating at all. And which you will never lose weight when you're not eating at all. What you lose is fluid and muscle, and that is dangerous. And what I had to say to her was, you two need to sit down with a doctor, not with me, because we're not really here to discuss a crisis of your marriage. We're here to discuss a medical issue, and you need to go and sit down with a doctor and talk to the doctor about these changes and what you can do together to make it work, and then come back and see me when you've done that. And they came back and they were so grateful. So when I met Lisa, it was like, this is the lady that everybody needs to know. Everyone needs a Lisa in their back pocket, because she's putting all this stuff into these guys' heads that is going to make these arguments and these conversations not necessary, because they've already got they're armed with that information of, oh, I wonder if that could be what's going on here, as opposed to she's just a grumpy moo and won't give me sex on Friday. So, there is always a reason. There is always a bit more to the story. And you have to sometimes peel back the layers to find out what it is. So this lady is the one to come to, and Lisa's amazing. So yeah, well done for what you do, love. Over to you.
Thank you so much for saying that. It's the reason I get up in the morning, right? Because I know what I've experienced, not having that support, and it could be really devastating. So that's that's what I do every single day. Are you getting LinkedIn comments coming up, or is StreamYard loving us again?
Yeah, I'm seeing comments. You can't hear me. I'm talking to myself. I know you can hear me. I'm seeing comments. They're just not in StreamYard. So
Yeah,
let's see what.
yeah.
We
That's if you
found
see me looking
Jay.
off.
Jay, how you doing,
Yay.
Jay? We found you. Yay! Now I haven't got to talk at all today. Now, anyway, now so let me welcome our friends who I can see on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
Who can I see? Oh, it's Sharon Rose. Amazing Sharon Rose is here. She says peace, blessings, and your beautiful souls. The amazing Linda in Canada is here as well. Hello, everyone. Charito's here. And she said, good morning. So we got our best friend Lisa, Paulette, and me. Yay! And guests, of course, you get hello to. And she does mention you, Sean and David. So, yeah, Charito is very good. I wonder what time it is in her part of the world. I'm sure it's very early. Ridiculously early. Right.
Yeah.
Now,
4 a.m.
those are the ones I can see. What can you see on yours? On
I'm
your
seeing the same. I'm seeing the same. I'm seeing Crystal on LinkedIn as well. Yeah. So please, if you're in the room, let us know that you're here because StreamYard isn't pulling the comments as usual,
yeah,
but that's all right.
there
Uh,
many more people. More people here. And then, of course, there's some on YouTube as well.
yeah, yeah. So welcome everyone. Let me pass the mic quickly to Jay to introduce himself before I take the mic. Jay, welcome, my friend. I love the shirt. It's very festive.
Well, I'm anti cold weather, so I'm pushing back as much as I can. I'm using my tropical shirt. Yeah, well, so I'm the storytelling strategist here on LinkedIn. I try to help folks tell their stories. I'm the author of The Rules of Engagement in Storytelling. And, the book was basically put out there to get everything that was crammed into my brain, all the experiences and my history as a storyteller, so that other people can read it. And now that that's done, I'm moving on to the next phase, and I'm creating a GPT, basically a platform that will take my book and help people through AI tell their story through each chapter. So that's me. And, I'm going to say this before I hand it back to you. I never thought I would ever enter into a chat about menopause. Let me just say that up front. But Lisa will actually testify to the fact that now that I have, I'm trying to be a better spouse now with the knowledge that I've gained listening and watching the LinkedIn Live events. And now I'm even also sharing tidbits from the internet with Lisa about everything menopause. I really want to commend her for doing what she's doing, being the advocate that she is, because if she didn't do this, I wouldn't be here. I mean, that's just the truth. And you ask Renee, she goes, why do you keep sending me this stuff? Because I want you to be aware. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're getting some feedback off of your mic. I'm not sure Why?
No one's mic is open. That's why I'm like,
Yes,
what's that?
something in your background. I'm not sure it's a phone or something, um, but thank you for that. And yes, I have men now sharing articles that are coming out in the States, things that I wouldn't have access to because it's localized to them. And I'm very appreciative of it because it keeps me well informed of what conversations we're having and where it's happening. So, for example, yesterday, was it today? See, I'm losing time. Yesterday, the FDA finally is removing the black box warning label off of hormone replacement therapy, and that is such a big milestone for the community because now doctors wouldn't be afraid to recommend these drugs to women. And it's about 25 years that women have not had access to these drugs. They were afraid to take it. The doctors were giving misinformation because of that label. So, we're moving in the right direction, and it's because we're having these conversations. So, my passion and purpose really is just to keep having these conversations. Once I'm on the side of the grass, I'm going to keep having these conversations so that we spread the word, so that the world knows and the powers that be knows that these are important conversations and we need them to do what they need to do so that we can live the quality of life that we are seeking. So I'm really appreciative of all of you all agreeing to be on the show. I'm seeing Kenny.
Can I say quickly? I have to commend Jay. See, I send Lisa articles. I won't send nothing to my wife. I don't want to get divorced tomorrow. I like my peace. Don't send any for menopause. Don't talk about that. I'm just saying. Jay, you're a man. About you, my friend.
Yeah, well, some people aren't ready for the conversation, and that's okay. It's just when they're ready, we must be ready to have the conversation with them, and that's why we have these every other Tuesday we're here. Just want to acknowledge Kenny who's in the room. Chietza, welcome, my friends. Please share the event with others so that they can benefit as well. For those of you all who don't know me, my name is Lisa Favek. I'm a dietitian, a coach, and author for menopausal women. What I do day in, day out is talk about perimenopause and menopause, bringing that awareness, bringing that education, because we still need to talk about it. We still have areas in the world where it's still very taboo to talk about it. And then women who still don't understand what's going on with their bodies. As Paulette was saying earlier, it's biology. It's something that all women will experience, whether we deny it or not, whether we accept it or not, we are all going to go through menopause. But the only way we could have the conversation with our partners if we understand what's going on. And many times that is the case. We don't notice what's going on. We don't notice changes. And sometimes I have clients who say it's actually their partner, their husband, that noticed the changes first and brought it to their attention. And then they were able to go have a doctor's visit on it. So that's why I wanted to have the conversation with the men in the lives of these great women to say, to share with us what their experiences were and some of the support systems that they have in place. So the way we're going to do today's show is a little different because we have so many people on stage. We're going to have more of a panel discussion. We'll have a few questions. Promise we're going to finish on time because I know England is it's already midnight. So we're going to keep on time. But what I wanted to start with was, and this is the first question, so everyone will have a turn to answer. If you could go back to the first time you noticed something happening with your wife, what if you remember what those first symptoms were? Was she the one who noticed something first, or was it you that talked to her about it? And how did that conversation go? Was it a comfortable conversation? Let's get an idea of what it was like back then. As briefly but as explanatory as possible. I'm just going to go how you are on my stage. So Sean, I'll pass the mic to you.
Had to find the magic little button. I was trying to think back which, like, I would say I think she noticed, like, she was having this experience of her mouth feeling like it was on fire, like she swallowed, like she had a hot coal sitting in her mouth. And initially, she ate cold blueberries or popsicles to try and regulate it. But then we started noticing the other symptoms, like the mood swings. And we have a good relationship. Like she's really good about letting me know, like, right now it's not me. It's this, what's going on. Just give me space. And I give her space. And one thing that I definitely had to learn as a man, because the natural tendency of men is problem, fix it. And this isn't a problem to fix. And like Annie said, I've been together with her 34 years. And, I've learned, don't fix. Just be present, be there, ask the right questions to help her deal with what's going on, especially when it's out of her control.
Wow, that's so very interesting, because you notice he didn't start with hot flashes was the first symptom. Burning tongue was the first symptom. And that's one of the things I try to impart to people when they come on the shows and through my newsletters. There are over 100 symptoms of menopause. Many of us don't start with hot flashes. I started with a persistent toothache that I kept going back to the dentist for, and every time he kept looking at me like I was crazy. So I started to feel like I was crazy. So a lot of us aren't going to start with symptoms that are recognizable, and we're going to get dismissed from our doctors. So we're going to bring that back home. And how our partners treat with us will determine how we are in the home and in the relationship. So thank you for that. David, I'm going to pass the mic to you.
Yeah, when you ask the question, Tara and I have been together for 13 plus years, but not 34 for sure like Sean. But I can assure you, for the last 5 years, me and Tara have been inseparable. And I mean, 365, we run our business together. We have our relationship together. We're digital nomads. I'm her best friend. I'm her worst enemy. I'm her best lover. I'm her worst lover, all of the above, and more. And I would say that Tara we started in the health and wellness industry before we started our business. So health has always been a topic of conversation. Your health is your wealth. And so she's been very, in tune with that and educating me along the way. And yes, I was kind of like Annie, like, no, I don't want to talk about it. No, let's not, no. And over a course of time, it comes with shifting. It comes with changing. And kind of like, Paulette said at the very beginning, did your family talk about it? And I remember growing up, my mother didn't talk about it. My father didn't talk about it. So once again, this is, kind of like a guide that we never were given. You just got to deal with it. And this is emotions. This is hormones. This is, reverse puberty at its finest for women, that they don't know what's going on. We definitely don't know what's going on. And everybody's just running around, a circus. And so, the changes that Tara dealt with, we talked about them. I would see them, the hot flashes. I would say, now that you say that out loud, I can now, put it together. Hey, baby, can you turn that up? Hey, it's hot in here. The other day, I just remember, the AC was off. And she's like, hey, I need the AC. And I'm just moseying around. She's like, hey, I need the AC. I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, hey, I need the AC. And so it was like, okay, I got it. And so it's just the communication and being able to roll with it. And as I said, I definitely want us men to also understand we too have a similar thing, but it just rolls at a lower pace. 1% of our estrogen and our energy and all that thing starts to deplete as well. And so we're kind of both going through it at the same time, and just being open. And as you do with anything, is how you do everything. How you handle one situation is how you handle everything. And so just having that open conversation and not treating it like it's, the cooties, because it's not the cooties. And I think because we didn't talk about it when we were younger, and then it's similar with the menstrual cycle every month, we definitely don't want to talk about that because it's also a hot stove for us as men. We don't know if it's hot, we don't know if it's cold, we don't know to go do this. We're confused like no other. Just as you're confused, we're confused more. And so it just allows us, especially hearing, Paulette and some of the other women from your side, other than Tara's side. And I think that's the biggest, the idea as well, is that we get to hear from other women and not just our women, because we all know we hear them in a voice that we don't hear other people. So hearing Paulette, hearing Miss Lisa say, hey, I'm going through this, hey, I'm going through that. Hey, it's not just Tara. She's just not cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I thought it was just her ass. It's not. It's all of us. So, it really helps us have this conversation and being open about it, and we're all adults at the end of the day. And I think something that Paulette said, how we handled things back in the past, that's cute and adorable, but we're adults now. And we're all grown now, and we should be able to have these open conversations and be educating ourselves and not go with the old patterns and the old traditions and the old habits. I talked about this with my father a couple months ago or a year ago, and he's like, boy, ain't nobody want to talk about that. Men don't have any of that. What you talking about? She's just crazy. And I'm like, Dad, you got to educate yourself. Come on. This just doesn't, this old school, hard nose, hustle, grind, all those things that used to work in the 80s, 90s. This is 2025. Buckle up and learn the system with all these new changes that we have. So that's what I have to say to it.
I love that. I love that she kept telling you about it. Because what I've found is a lot of my clients will say, well, I've talked to my husband about it. He should know. He should remember. And we keep forgetting, okay, you think that, but where's your man's head at? What is he thinking about? He could be worried about the finances or the mortgage. So his mind is somewhere else. So he may be hearing you, but not really listening. So it's on you to say, listen, this is what I'm experiencing. You have to be the one telling your partner, listen, this is what I'm experiencing. This is what I need from you. And don't assume that, okay, we've had the conversation once or twice that he's supposed to remember. That's not how our brains work. We have so many things bombarding us, and the economy is going to crap. We have so many things we're worried about. But I love that she's, keep telling you, listen, this is what I need. This is what I need. And she's not giving up and just shrinking and saying, he doesn't love me anymore, because those sort of voices, because of menopause, we start to hear those, things come into our brain. But it's good that she knows, okay, I just need to keep at it, keep telling him. So I just love that. Just want to say hi to Harvey. I'm seeing you in the comments. Welcome, my friends. If you all are in the comments watching the show, please let us know your thoughts, your questions. Love the interaction going on so far. Jay, let me pass the mic to you.
So with me, it's a little different. So my wife has PCOS, so polycystic ovary syndrome. So it could, for some, right, menopause could come earlier, especially for women with PCOS. And so navigating that, right, I didn't know much about it. And I had to educate myself, just like David was talking about. And really, that was the important thing. The other thing is, so these two issues that she was dealing with all came together at the same time. And so there was a lot of hormones raging and emotions. And I had to understand that. And, WebMD at the time was everybody's go-to. Now, it's for informational purposes. I'm not saying take that advice. over your doctors. That's not what I was just trying to figure out what was going on, because a forum like this didn't exist at the time for me. And so I was looking for everything, because like David said, nobody was talking about this. Nobody talked to me about it. Nobody sat me down and said, hey, son, when women get to a certain age, you need to be aware, right? They didn't even say duck, run, and cover, whatever. They just said nothing, because it wasn't a thing. And because of forums like this, I think it's really important so that we understand how to best get along, right? And how to help each other, especially as couples in very long-term relationships by now. And so understanding this early on allowed me to look at things differently and progress and change. And I've done that, right? I've grown with my wife through the various stages of these two issues that she was dealing with, and she continues to deal with it. And a lot of the information that is now available to us online outside of WebMD, it's important that we continue to read these things and share it with our loved ones and share it with people like Lisa, so that we all join in this community to help one another. It's not like we as men sit at the bar and go, hey, you know what? Renee was like this the other day. And, what are you experiencing with your wife? Be like, I know the young me would have gone, man, that chick is crazy. What are we doing? Why am I still in this? Right? But through things like this, if you see guys like me, like Annie, like David, sharing information, I think that's going to be important going forward for the next generation. And when it comes time, before it comes time, I think I'll have a conversation with my son, because I think that's really important. I've spoke to him when he was going through issues when he was dating, and just starting to date as a young man. And so why not continue conversations to help my son, to help family members, to help other men to be able to be there for their spouses or their loved ones.
Lisa, can I just jump in there a
Yes,
sec?
please.
Because
Yes, please.
I just want to talk about Ben, and everyone knows my son. So he's at university. This was last year. Sorry, it's 2 years ago. He was in a house with two girls, two women, three guys, and one of the women was in the kitchen while Ben was doing his dinner, and they don't know each other very well. They've only just moved in. It's all a bit difficult, and so Ben decides to try and start a conversation to make friends, So he says, "What did you have for dinner?" And she just slams her pot into the sink, and he's like, "Okay." So he didn't know what to say next, and then she starts banging and crashing in the sink, and he's like, "Oh, I've got to wait with my food. I can't just leave. I'd like to run. This woman's mad. I'm a bit scared she's going to pick up a knife. I don't know what's going on here." And so he said, "Is everything okay?" Bless his heart for trying. And she turned around and she went, "No, it's not all right. I've got my effing period." And he was like, "Hey, I know what to do there." She said, "Pardon?" He said, "Nothing. It's okay." And Sean was talking about the fix it. So Ben phones me up and he says, "Maria's got a period." And I said, "How do you know this? Like, how do you know your flatmate's got a period?" "Well, she was banging and slamming around in the kitchen, and I asked her if she was okay. And she's not okay, Mum. She's got a period and she's really angry." And I was like, So what did you do? He said, I ran. I said, so what have you done about your washing up? I'll go down and do it when she's left. I said, okay. He said, but I've got to go to Tesco's because I need some food. I said, do yourself a favor. While you're at Tesco's, buy a big bar of Galaxy or Dairy Milk chocolate. Big bar of Dairy Milk. I said, and when you get back, I said, just go upstairs and knock on the door. You don't have to say anything. You just hand her the chocolate and you walk away. And he said, will she think I'm mad? I said, no, she'll think you've spoken to your mother. So anyway, that's exactly what he did. The next day, she met him in the kitchen and she started a gentle, friendly conversation. She said, by the way, thanks for the chocolate. She said, was that your idea or was that your mum's? And he said, tell you the truth, it was my mum's. But he said, I was worried about it and I didn't know what to do. And so she said, it's only a bad period. And he was like, yeah, but now I know chocolate's the answer to everything. So she was really great with him from then onwards. It was like the fixer that didn't fix the problem, but it kind of showed her that he had noted there was an issue and it showed her that he cared enough to do something about it. But he was just going, you're scary as heck, and I want to be friends with you. We've got to live together for a year. And this was a bit frightening. So I said to Ben, write it in your calendar. He said, why? I said, you know where to be at that time of the month. Just kind of, you see Maria's in the kitchen, just stay away from the knives. It just was like laughing. But if I can have that conversation with a 20-year-old boy, a lad, 20-year-old son, now about menopause, it's not menopause, as I explained to him. It's not that level of worry or stress yet. But if I can at least have that conversation about what a period is and what it does and the hormones and everything else, this guy's trained to be a doctor. So he's going to have to learn this stuff at some point. And at least now he understands what hormones are. He knows how they rage. I mean, he's lived with me for God's sake, you know? But the point is, he's never seen it in a young girl before because he's never lived with a girl before. So this was a new experience and it terrified the life out of him. But I'm really glad because now I think he will have a better understanding of women and their bodies. So if you've got a son and you have these conversations about dating and about other stuff, you know, throw it in there because if we start talking about things like those that were beginning with P, you know, and menstrual cycles, it's not scary. It's just a word. And it's something that's going to happen every single month for a very long time in a relationship before it becomes something else in a relationship. So I really think it's important to, you know, start educating our lads at such a young age that by the time they're in their 40s and 50s, they'll be an old hand at this stuff, you know? So I really think it's kind of like important. So chocolate fixes everything.
Yeah, that's usually the answer. It does fix a lot of problems. But, you know, I find a lot of men tell me that, you know, from their experience, it's just this woman raging on them or the mood swings. And I say, okay, well, take it from her shoes now. No one wants to be like that. No one wakes up and, you know, says, I'm going to be the worst person ever. So if you're experiencing that, imagine the rage going on inside of her that she's trying to control and not throw on people. So if you're getting it, it's because she's been holding back an immense amount of rage and feeling to cry and kill someone all at the same time and holding that in. And that's just what you describe as just the menstrual cycle part. When you get to menopause, take that and multiply that by 1,000. And that's just one symptom. Most of my clients have 50, 60 symptoms at one time. Many women feel to end their own lives because of it. So, yes, it's a lot for the partner to experience. But just for a moment, take it from her side, what she's experiencing. And then to have doctors, I have a client I'm going to see this weekend because her doctor is basically giving her medication. We don't have a lot of the options for hormone replacement therapy in my country, but the doctor is basically saying, this is what I'm giving you, and you sort of have to deal with the rest of it. Right? I started in my 30s. I'm now a lot older than my 30s, but I've been in this for like almost 20 years and I'm not done. So imagine going through menopause for 20 plus years and you're not done. And I'm still going through natural menopause. The women who had hysterectomies or surgeries and their bodies are shoved into menopause when they're in their 20s. So they're spending their whole lives living in menopause. Right? So this is why, again, we need to have these conversations because we don't live in a bubble. We're going to go to work, interact with colleagues, come home, interact with our partners or children. I've had teachers tell me they feel like throwing their children, their students out the window because of it, right? So we need to have these conversations so at least women are aware of what's going on. And maybe the workplace could change. I know a lot of the UK policies are changing. So the rest of the world will follow soon enough. But again, when we have these conversations, take it back to your communities. And I'm listening to the men on the stage talk and I'm just loving like the science that they're coming with and they're understanding the symptoms and I'm just there smiling like a proud mama because it's like these guys get it. And the more we have these conversations and they talk to their sons and talk to their friends, then the word is just going to spread in an easy, digestible way. And men, they're going to get it sooner or later. So I really applaud you all for the work that you're doing. I suddenly just saw a cat pass over the screen. Sorry. So, but I'm really loving the conversation. Do you have anything to add? I know you keep saying, just happy wife, happy life, just let her do what she wants.
I was hoping you're going to go past me. I was hoping you didn't see me.
No.
Right. No, you on
perspective.
You and Paulette pretty much got my reality. I was living quite happy. I live every day in this little world. And suddenly the explosion, not to 1,000, not to 100, not to 1,000. Why are you shouting? Suddenly anxiety about everything. It's all gone wrong. Nothing's gone wrong. Nothing's changed. What's it? And I'm like, this is what it. You see, my blessing was that my foster dad pretty much showed us how to live with menopause when I was a kid. And it's very similar house to mine, where I got two sons. So the older one doesn't live with us, but he's there most of the time. My youngest, literally it's us two looking at this crazy woman doing crazy stuff. And we sort of look at each other and go, here we go again. And that's just how it is. Now, that's how we know when she's going to scream. When she walks through the door, she's going to scream about anything. We don't really, I don't know if she cares what she screams about, really. Yeah, but we just find our peace. Normally, we just go back to our rooms quietly and leave her be. I don't buy chocolates, Paulette. No. If I did that, she'd probably say, I don't want chocolate. And then she'd go down there and my weight things. Leave that alone, right? Leave me alone. Okay, we just want our peace. Of course, I did notice it's too hot. It's too hot in bed, especially. I'm like, okay. I'm off. Bye. And anything to find peace is all I want. But we said that the menopause thing, I don't think anything's going to prepare. Knowing the bits will help. So now knowing what I know, which is just find your peace and create peace. Don't create conflict. Don't respond to the craziness. Don't know. When you're told, we're going to get divorced tomorrow, don't respond. Just walk away and just smile and say, we're not. Just carry on. Because tomorrow will be another day. It's not another day in our lives, right? It's a hard one, Lisa. It's a hard one. You know, I don't think we even mentioned the word menopause today. I don't think we mentioned it really. Yeah, every so often she'll mention it related to something that she's found, like medication, whether it's something she's read somewhere, you know. But then it passes by very quickly. You know, it's a word that shan't be mentioned in my house because it doesn't help us. Finding peace helps us. That's all men can do. Right? Find peace. And I'm hoping my son is learning the same lessons that I learned. You know, if you just learn to, yes, darling, but also I guess be handy, be useful. When I was younger, I was pretty useless. You know, literally, I was like another kid in the house. You know, so I learned. You know, luckily, I learned just before. You know, things that are kicking off. That's the best way I describe it. So to find my own. You know, I cook my own dinner. I look after myself essentially. You might say, "Hey, you should be doing that anyway." But I didn't have to. Like I had a wife who would do all that stuff, and suddenly he was like, "No, I'm not doing any of that stuff." Like, okay, fine, I can do it myself then, you know, and do it with joy. That's the best I can say to you. Well, and then I said that's how I knew something that the change had been, and you know, we're in a different era, a different time. Good or bad, who knows, right? It's life. It's life that we have. Right, can I go back to my little world then?
For a moment. But
Thank
I
you.
have had women totally deny that they're in menopause.
Mm.
Some people just aren't ready to have that conversation because, and that's a lot of the stigma that we need to break about the topic. Menopause is seen as, okay, you're over the hill, you're done. It's time to put you out to pasture, you're not worth anything anymore. If you're at work, a lot of women get passed over for promotions or get taken off of special projects because management doesn't feel that they could contribute anymore. So you're getting all these, ideas being thrown at you. So why admit that I'm in menopause? Because I'm telling the world that I'm done, that I have no more value to give. And many women would rather suffer than admit and get support, get help, right? Um, it's unfortunate, but again, hopefully having these types of conversations and normalizing the topic the same way before with period pains and stuff, it's more normalized now. They're talking about it in schools now. This is the direction we need to start taking, and it'll take time. Everything takes time, but at least we're having the conversations now. So I'm really happy that you are here, Annie, still sharing with us. I appreciate it. I just wanted to acknowledge Tracy that I'm seeing. Yolanda, welcome. I saw someone else. Liana, God, I hope I got her name right. Liana, yes. If you're here with us, please share your thoughts, share your questions on the topic. We want to know what you're thinking. Oh gosh, and Kenny's just, I'm not reading Kenny's comments out loud.
I've got Lisa, I've got a quick question for you.
Mhm.
I used to employ about 30 to 40 women at one time, and in different departments. And I found, and this is probably going to sound a bit crazy, but I found that they all started to their menstrual patterns to coincide with each other.
Yeah.
So it ended up with all of them in their own departments would be having their period at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I won't swear, but we used to call it Epic Friday, right? So Epic Friday meant that you could say what you needed to say and it didn't matter. Nobody would take offense, nobody would react to it. We'd all be able to get it off our chest, and that was Epic Friday. And Epic Friday meant that you found out that they would speak honestly about how they were feeling. Now, some of those women were in their 40s, going on towards their 50s. So they were probably not only having their period, but also heading into, menopausal times.
Yeah.
And what I found was that by allowing them to express themselves, and this is something that Annie's going, oh, I want my give you my piece. I think they needed to have that hotbed of letting it all out. Epic Friday, just say what you have to say. No one's gonna, you're not gonna get a written warning, but just going for it, and what needs to be changed. Tell us what you're not happy with. Let's just get it all out there. And I think that hotbed of emotion that you talk about, when there's a group of women, 4 or 5 women, all at the same time, you've really got, the potential for an explosion amongst each other. So it's not just women and men, husbands and wives that will blow up. It's also women and women. And so women who are in a menstrual cycle will also fall out with other women that are going through the menopause or whatever. So I think the point we're having the conversation, if you're a manager of staff and you've got a female working for you, and she could be anywhere between the ages of 9 when I started my periods. I mean, you could be 9 to flipping 90, and you could be going through any part of this cycle and, having weekly, monthly, different issues with different members of staff. Just think to yourself for a second, what is it that's made this situation occur? Because it could be that this cycle that we're talking about is affecting their work, but it doesn't mean in a negative way, just that they are particularly stressed, frustrated, angry with themselves because they've done something 3 times and they still can't get it right because their brain is all foggy, And if they actually said, I'm having a real moment, I can't do this, I've got to just get up, go and get a cup of coffee, get a refresh, and come back, and then they'll be able to do it like that. But that's where we need to be. We need to have that open dialogue where women feel comfortable to speak to their spouses, their employees, their employers, to their colleagues, to their flatmates, like this girl with Ben. We need to have this open dialogue about how we're feeling, what's going on in our lives at any one time. So men, women at work as well. So if you're a boss and you are employing staff, this is a hotbed. And when you say women get turned over for promotion, absolutely. I've seen people, I've thought we should definitely offer that person a promotion. And in the boardroom, I've had the conversation where someone's gone, oh, she's dropped the ball a few times, she's done this, she's done that. And I've gone, have you asked yourself why? Do you know anything that's going on with her? Is everything okay at home? Don't just pass her over until we know why, because she was absolutely up for that promotion. Now that's because you have a female on the board. Now, if you didn't have a female on the board, guess what? She'd have got passed over. And that's what we need to change. This whole mentality. It's not just about the marriages, it's about wherever men are interacting with women, and that at any age, at any point, just ask yourself that question. Because I think, what you're teaching and what you're explaining is that we all need to be that bit wiser for all of our occasions. Nieces, cousins, uncles, whatever it is, we all, the collective narrative needs to be it's okay to talk about these things and not hide under a blanket any.
And the thing is, you were female on the board, but you spoke up for her. We have many cases where the female boss would be like, okay, well, I went through menopause and I was able to handle my stuff. Why can't you handle it in the same way? You shouldn't be dropping the ball on anything. So sometimes they are less empathetic than male bosses. And the thing is now, the UK, again, is really leading the way when it comes to women's health. They are now telling companies they must have a menstrual health policy and a menopause health policy. Otherwise, you'll get fined. And certain parts of the US is moving in that direction as well. So again, because it's your workplace, it's productivity, it affects the economy, everything. So
Part of conduct. It's part of the conduct of your
yeah,
business. You absolutely need to have that as part of your conduct of your policies.
and basic
But
like rights for employees as
absolutely,
well.
yeah.
So again, this is why this conversation is so very important. So thanks for sharing that. I wanted to touch a little bit on the second question because you mentioned, Paulette, before in the marriage, everything should be cooking and sex on Friday, and now we're not getting anything. And I know it's not a comfortable topic, but I just wanted to find out from everyone. And I'll start with David because you talked about not just having a partner, but having a partner that you work closely with. I mean, you all are doing shows almost every day on LinkedIn, so you all are together all the time. How is the intimacy part, and not just that physical part, but the communication and that closeness? Because we have women who say they don't want to be touched anymore. I've had clients tell me that their husbands are chewing too loudly. I want to divorce him. That's the reason for divorce. He's chewing too loudly or clipping his nails too loudly or, something very insignificant, and they're ready for divorce. They're good, right? Let's get divorced tonight. So just wanted to, start with David. How was the intimacy affected, and what sort of conversations you all had around that topic?
That's a great conversation, Lisa. And I would say, once again, this is a big word, communication. And that has been a topic around the monthly, cycle, especially now going in towards the menopause where, hey, don't touch me. This is the time I'm ready. This is the time I'm not ready. We got a whole calendar. My time is coming up here pretty soon. So, sexy ladies coming out here in a little bit. And so and that's the type of fun that you have with it. And just communicating that time to, where we can be on the same page. Other than me being like, hey, I'm feeling a little that time, and me not knowing, and it'd be like, and the expectations. And I think that's the biggest thing is the expectations from both sides. And that comes down to communication. And like you said, me and Tara spend so much time with each other, a lot of time. And, Sean, you said 34 years. I guarantee you, I put my 5 years since 2020 up against your 30 years. And I guarantee I've caught up on minutes and seconds. Like next, like behind me right here. She's right here. We're breathing the same air and oxygen right here. And, it just is that affection, the touching, the kissing, all of those things. Yes, they have their ups and downs, but it's also for us as men to be responsible enough to understand that, hey, they're going through this change. And, our words can either heal or hurt. And it goes back to, the 4 agreements that I share with people all the time. The 4 agreements is a book that can kind of go along with everything. Be impeccable with your word. Don't allow your words to hurt her and her words not hurt you. Don't take anything personal. Please understand that this is their time of the month or their time of the year, whatever it may be. Don't take it personal. I think a lot of the times we take it personal and then making assumptions. And this is where the lack of communication comes, where she has assumptions, you have assumptions, nobody's talking about their assumptions. And now we're in a world of assumptions and nobody cares. And then doing your best, having that grace, having that conversation and remembering those times. Hey, baby, I love you. I'm sorry. This, that, and the other. Remembering those moments. So when she does cut you off and she does, bite your head off, you go back to that moment and you remind her also, hey, baby, remember that time you said you love me, but now you just said you wanted to cut my head off. Remember that? And just that conversation. And so I think, us being adults, and as I share with people all the times, our trauma, our drama, our patterns, right, take place. and we don't get a hold of those things, and our emotional awareness goes out the window. And here it is, the same thing happens throughout the month, and the same conversations, the same daggers, the same conflicts, they all just start spewing. And here comes, the ongoing story of you always do this, or this is what always happens. And people don't see the growth, right, in that transformation, because like I said, they don't know. And for us as men, if we can be able to understand that they don't know, we all don't know, and there's no manual to this, and we're going to create our own manual together of how we deal with these things, then that makes it so much better. I know there's men out there cussing me out because they're not having a chart. They don't know this, they don't know that, and that's okay, right? And you got to start somewhere. And whether you're 50, whether you're 45, whether you're 35, you got to start somewhere, and building on that and keeping your word of what you won't do and what you will do during that time. And I think that's the most critical piece, is us remembering our word, which is why it's rule number one, right? Be impeccable with your word and what you say and how you do it. Or should I say it's one of the rules. And so that's what I have to say. Just have fun for a long time, as they say, and enjoy it while it lasts, and just keep it pushing. There's other ways of affection other than just getting in the bed. There's the kissing, there's the touching, there's bringing the chocolate, right? And look, we all getting old. 5-10 minutes here or there. Get it when you can get it in, but the rest is communication and talking, and that's what life is all about, right?
Yeah, I absolutely love what you said. And yeah, there is no manual for this. Yes, there's continuous research we're doing, but at the same time, that's on a population that doesn't involve you. You still have to take that and now add it to your manual. Okay, what is going to work for you? Because you're individuals with your own needs, your own thoughts, your own fears, and now you have to somehow come together and share the same space, the same air that you talked about. So I love that you're creating your own manual. I love that part that you said particularly, and just that again, everything today is going to go back to communication, but open and honest conversation. That okay, I've had a couple where they were talking at each other but not to each other. And when you actually listen to them separately, you realize they were both fearful that the other person stopped loving them. And when they actually brought them back together, it's like, you all have the same fear. And you all aren't talking to each other. And they realize, okay, maybe we need to, like you said, set up a different schedule, look at other ways for intimacy, because that's also important. It's the moments leading up to that 5 or 10 minutes, as you said. But those are important because that's going to keep the communication going. That's going to keep that love going. Reminding yourself, why did I get with this person in the first place? I think that was so important. So thanks. I love what you shared. Jay, I saw you. Somebody came off mic.
Yeah, I did. Real quick.
Oh,
One of the
yeah.
things that I forgot to mention, right, is support. Don't be silent. Just like Paulette's son, right? He ran away when he didn't know what was going on, and he got silent. And we walk away. And unfortunately, women, when we walk away, in my case, should I say, that brain gets to rolling and rocking, and you don't know where that train is going or what story is ran with. And the more silent you give, the more support to her story that she's created that you're not even a part of. And so actually, talk, be open, and don't be silent, because that will save you so much trouble. And I know men, we all know, stop putting words in our mouth. I didn't say this. I didn't do that. I didn't say that. But if we're not effectively communicating what we said and effectively communicating with our tone and our voice and how we said it, right, then you're right. We're going to just be speaking at each other and nobody's listening to each other, and out the door we go.
Yeah, and menopause does that to our brains. So those stories and that train that you talked about, the hormones does it, and then our own trauma and past issues adds to that. So it's a long winding train that starts, and yeah, if you don't say something, that train could just take off. So thanks for sharing that. So very true. Jay, I saw you shaking your head a lot when David was talking. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely communication. I want to go back a little bit to what Paulette was talking about, where F it Fridays and women getting their periods all kind of at the same time. So I had 3 teenage girls and my wife all at the same time having their periods. The other thing is I'm an empath, and I'm feeling something about to go down, and then I get a pimple, and then I get another one, and I'm like, good. Everybody, maintain, okay? Don't don't lose it. I need you all to keep in check. You understand? Because we all know what's going to happen. One of you is going to get it, and then the whole lot of you, and then dad's out the door. So anyway, I remember those times very vividly, and they happen occasionally now too. But anyway, um, communication is key, and it's really that point. For me, it's a little different because I am a storytelling strategist. I get told to shut up because it's like he's strategizing something right now, right? So you have to know when to talk. I think that's the important part. You have to understand those rhythms. Now I'm gonna put it back to science again, and even pseudoscience. So I grew up in the age of just say no to drugs, just say no to sex, right? That era. And, as a Gen Xer, that was the message all the way around. And so the rhythm method, if you all know what that is, then you were part of that era. If you don't, you're probably younger. And they said that's not very effective. But what it taught at the time was that there are rhythms and there are cycles. And so I was fortunate enough to know that that existed in women, right? And to understand at a very young age, about that in women, that they do have cycles, that there is a rhythm, that they follow the rhythm of the earth and nature and all that other stuff, right? That's science. That's the truth. Now you take that and you you follow it through the end or towards the end of a human cycle, you start to see that there are patterns. And so just like us in our daily lives, you have to recognize those patterns. In my household, if you want to live, you better recognize those patterns. No, I'm just kidding. She's, it's those are the things that's important. The other thing is, you have to have a sense of humor, right, in some of these things, because if you don't, it can go pretty dark. Here's my thing. I remember as a 20-year-old, a comedian, an older comedian, talking about the change. And he said it this way, talking about cycles and patterns. He said, God has a sense of humor. Just as the men are losing their libido, the women are going through the roof. They're clawing at you. And now you are the guy coming home from a hard day's work that you've been at for 30 years, that you hate every day you've been at, and you're clawing at the walls because you want to go home. And now your wife jumps on you. God has a sense of humor. And so I remembered that, and I was like, there's, again, going back to patterns and cycles and understanding those and knowing when to engage and disengage. Disengaging is important just as much as engaging. And you got to know when to do that. And we're not always going to get it right, but at least be mindful of it. I think that's important.
Thanks for that, Jay. I really appreciate what you said there. And you sometimes I tell clients, you just have to laugh because it's either we laugh or we cry 24/7. Sometimes we really just have to laugh at this. This is what we have to go through. Women always have something to go through. Um, but you're right. Again, that's when Paulette was talking about the company or being all women and having their cycles line up. I remembered a case where a husband was having PMS symptoms when his kids all lined up together with his wife, just as you were saying. And he was having cramps and he was having um, cravings. And he's like, what the heck is going on? Why am I having these things? Not realizing some men pick up on the woman around them. So that's totally normal. It happens. And this is why when I talk to companies, if you have 40% of the workforce going through menopause, it's not putting a fan in the room. That's not what it's about. It's about having those conversations, really finding out what are we going through and how can we support you. So it's the same thing in the home. That fix-it mentality that men have, and that's normal for men to have. See problem, fix problem. Sometimes we just want to vent and for you to say, yep, you're right. We could be totally wrong about the situation or how we handle it. We just wanted to say yes. Like Annie would say, yes, darling, yes, darling. Right? We just want that in the moment. But having that conversation, and sometimes, like you said, telling the people around you, listen, I think it's that time, and preparing for it, preparing mentally for it, that could also help. So thank you for that. Just want to say a quick hello to the people in the comments. Harvey, I'm seeing you. Gladys, welcome. Carm, welcome. Christy, hi, welcome. Sharon, I'm seeing your question. I'll answer it in a bit. Just want to pass the mic to Sean for his shares.
First thing I got to say, David, you can't catch me. Because not only do I have 34 years with this woman, we grew up together. She was 18 when we got married. We worked together for many, many years. We have been both working from home 24/7, just like you said, breathing the same air, which sometimes she'll look at me and say, could you stop breathing so loud? And I'm just like, okay. Because sometimes that's the best thing to do. And as you were saying, expectations, I heard this from one of my coaches. Expectations are premeditated resentment. Like, as a man, a woman, a coach, whatever, we need to be careful with our expectations. Have agreements. Like, my wife and I have agreements that, this can happen on this day. And one thing I've learned is not, like, I studied with John Gottman a little bit, and he talks about the 4 horsemen that will destroy any relationship. And he also talks about bids for connection. When your partner is coming to you and they need connection, and they could be in the midst of a cougar puberty rage. That's what we call it in our house, is it's cougar puberty. As we said, as Jay was saying, I think Jay said, bring the humor, laugh about it together. Because sometimes she just wants to flood of tears. That's what she feels. But, one thing I've found is protect the connection between us, especially in the midst of conflict, right? Because if her hormones are in a certain phase, of course, the reactions are going to be sharper than when she's calm and grounded and everything's good and she's got enough sleep and our 7-year-old isn't driving her nuts, pushing all her buttons. He's really good at that. Something as simple as, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. Let's both take a breath. we'll come back to this when we're both calm and grounded, and so that we can discuss this, as David said, as adults, as level-headed adults, right? Because none of us is operating at our optimum when we're in that, I call it 4F mode, right? Fight, fly, freeze, fawn. It's a just like menopause and perimenopause are a physiological event. So is that your body kicks in and you're out of control. And all the logic and all the words do not land the same when we're in that mode. And curiosity, right? Like asking her, tell me more about this. Like, you're eating blueberries. Like, I'm going to buy stock in blueberries because we're going through a bag of blueberries a week. And remember, this served my marriage for many, many years. Your partner is not your enemy. Your perimenopausal wife is not your enemy. She's your partner. And she's the same person that she's always been. And actually, not only is she going through these physical symptoms, it's actually causing her to look at herself different. She's kind of losing a part of her identity, right? Her ability to have more children. Maybe she said she was done, but physically, mentally, emotionally, it's a massive transition, right? Because the system is shutting down. And I got early taste of this because my mother-in-law went through surgical menopause at 30. And I always knew when she didn't take her HRT. I'm like, Mom didn't take her pills, did she? It was like, just stay clear. And I think whether your partner is going through it now, whether they're just starting or whether they're in the middle of it, do the work now, because if you don't, it is going to come and bite you in the bum. Because this is a time where all the old, undealt with junk is going to surface. Right? She's going to feel disconnected. She's going to feel like he never does that, or, and that's like, we're seeing a rise in divorces in midlife initiated by women. Because you've got stubborn men who are like, I don't know what the hell's going on with her. I didn't change. Like, what the heck, man? She's ripping my head off. Kind of fortunately, I went through that early in my marriage. Like, she would have these episodes where she's like, sometimes I just want to punch you in the face. And I went, what in the, like, what? Like, my wife said this? She actually went through a treatment. She was allergic to me. And once it was solved, it helped a lot. But it didn't, like, it wasn't a magic wand. Like, everything was okay, because we've been through our ups and our downs. And what I've learned over it all is what keeps us together is communication. That's been said. I definitely echo that. Communication, communication, communication. No topic is taboo. And it's really fun when you're in midlife and you've got a 7-year-old. So trying to find quiet time where mom and dad can just talk and not get interrupted, because he's got like radar or something. He could be engrossed in something, and as soon as we start to talk, he wants to come talk to us. So it's quite fun. But like I think David was saying, it's about flexibility. It's about rolling with it. Like, okay, can't do it now. Let's find another time. For couple time, for communication, for just doing something together. She's really excited because our son's in a cooking class this month. And the last week of the month, she's coming with me, and we'll have an hour for the first time in 8 years of just us. Not sure what I'm going to do, but okay. And I'll wrap there.
Lisa, I've got a couple for you.
Yeah.
These are ones that have come up in family counselling. So based on actionable goals. Now, I don't want to get a bit too businessy here, but if you used to always have a date night and you stop having a date night, that means you've dropped the ball, because that actionable goal was that you gave that attention to your wife or your partner, and they gave that attention to you by having that date night. That put the romance back into the relationship. So if you always used to do something, and just because of a change in the way things are between you, because of either the drying up of the bedroom activity or the shouting at each other a lot or whatever, maybe just go back to the actionable goal set, which would be try to find some romance. So a date night, even if it's just a meal out, it hasn't got to be expensive, but just spending that hour or two together, you know, over a table, talking, looking at each other, um, showing each other kindness. That's something that people don't often hear. Why do you use that word, Paula? It's your favorite word. Well, it's not just my favorite word, it's also my favorite actionable goal. Because if you're showing kindness to somebody, it's very, very hard for them to not show it back. So it's very hard to go, "Ah!" and somebody say, I'm really sorry that's how you feel. What can I do to help you? Or is there anything I can do? Or would it be better if I just gave you some space and come back? Would you like a cup of tea? You know, when you show kindness to that shouting, you don't actually react to the shouting. It kind of diffuses it. So using kindness as a tool is really useful. And I've written down here misinterpretation. So if I kiss my husband on the cheek just because he's sitting down somewhere, I kiss him on the cheek, that doesn't mean bedroom ready. Okay, that might just be me showing a little bit of attention, saying hi, it's nice to see you sitting there, or whatever, you know. Or if yes, please, a cup of tea coming, incoming coffee. But you know that we mustn't misinterpret these actions as being game on, okay? If someone gives you a hug, it's because they need a hug and they want you to have that connection with them. Don't misinterpret that as what we used to do, which was, you know, straight on the kitchen table, let's go for it, you know. We've got the house to ourselves, we're off. You know, that hug does not mean that anymore. That hug now means I need a hug. I need some attention because I'm feeling something. And that is such an easy thing to misinterpret. And when you're in couple counseling, you often find the biggest problem is just purely a misinterpretation of something so crazy like that kiss on the cheek or the hug or the, you know, reaching across the table at dinner for your hand just because you need that contact because you're feeling something. And a woman often feels like she's losing herself, as you said, you're losing a part of yourself, you're losing maybe even your own ability to look in the mirror and see yourself as attractive. So if you can't do that anymore, how is your partner going to do that? So you telling your partner that they're still attractive to you, or what you look nice in that dress, or that looks great, not in the middle of a rage, not at a time where you know you're just going to be seen as, oh, you're just throwing something nice at me because I showered it this morning. That's not the time to do it. It's when they're completely not expecting it. When you just throw something out there, just on a day, they come downstairs and you go, oh, I don't recognize that blouse. Is that a new one? That looks really great on you. I'd be like, whoa, you noticed me? Hey, you know, that woman will feel like you actually saw her. It might be a blouse that they've had for 20 years, but you saw her today. Whereas maybe every other day you don't see her. because you're just with each other all the time. So it's just that little tiny bit of that word communication. We're going to keep using it, but it's more than that. It's intimacy. It's that intimacy of don't misinterpret the kiss on the cheek as game on. Don't misinterpret the hug. It's we need a hug. I need to feel you because my body's telling me things and I need to tell my head to switch off and you do love me. That's what that hug means. And that the romance can be date nights and things shows you still care and you're showing intimacy without sex. It's just intimacy because you're showing interest and compliments, not when they're expecting it, not after an argument, not when they're having a rage in the kitchen, but maybe the week after.
I really appreciate what you said there, Paulette, because it just really goes back to having that open, honest conversation. And as you said, knowing when to do something. So giving that little appreciation, reminding your partner that you still find them attractive. Because yes, as Sean said, it messes with your mind. You start hearing voices telling you that you're not loved anymore, you're not appreciated anymore, you're not worth anything anymore. And it's because of those raging hormones, those fluctuating hormones, that we're getting these things in our head. So having a supportive partner that is just going to acknowledge how you look today, thank you for something, those little things go so far. I just wanted to touch on a couple of things that Sean said as well, with the divorce rates being higher around this time. That is true.
Oh, hold on, hold on. Sean's dying. I don't like. I see Sean's distress every time. Please let him speak. Otherwise, he carry on dying, and he might just drop dead in front of us. Go on, Sean.
Oh, I'm sorry, you wanted to say something? Or you could have just come up. See, I'm not accustomed to seeing you.
And he's tuned to like when I'm chomping at the bit.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Because it was like piggybacking on what Paulette said. One thing I learned early on, intimacy, like many people you say intimacy and they automatically think sexy time. But really, intimacy, the way I break it out, into me you see. Right? And that means seeing her at her depths. It also means revealing yourself at your depths. So that, we did a study, and he said when Adam and Eve ate the fruit in the Bible story, what did they do? They sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves because they were hiding, they were ashamed of the parts of them. And as humans in this modern world, we do the same thing. We hide parts of ourselves from our partner, we hide parts of ourselves from our children, from our colleagues, from our audience. And intimacy is peeling off those layers. It's not flashing. I don't, because I think of authenticity, and some people think, well, they tell their worst, most horrible story because look how vulnerable I am. It's not emotional vomit. That's the way I call it. It's about, in the right time, the right space, you show your whole self, not your mask, not your polished version. There was something else too, but I can't remember. But, it's about, I forget. Thought train derailed.
That's okay. When you remember, please put it in the comments so that we could benefit. Thanks, Annie, for that. I really didn't notice that you needed to say something. But one thing you said, Sean, is protecting the bond of marriage, and I think I really appreciate that when she's raging, as you said, you don't meet it with rage. And that's one thing I always appreciate when Annie speaks. And he says, when she's going through her thing, he doesn't meet it with the same energy. And he just says, okay. that I appreciate about you, and anything, I know you think we rag on you and we just give you a lot of flack for what you're good thing, but when you say that, I appreciate that about you, because and you, at least you understand that she's going through her stuff. Maybe she's not ready to admit that she's in menopause, and you're not meeting it and saying, okay, let's get divorced too. I appreciate that about you. Yeah, I listen. Just want to acknowledge Professor Roxana. I'm seeing you. Welcome. Arlovin, welcome. Oh, Garth, hi, welcome. So one last question. How do you protect yourself, your mental health, your self-care, so that you are able to support your partner? And give us the best tips that you have. I know Annie sometimes plays video games, so just let us know some of the things that work for you moving forward. Annie, I see you laughing. I'm going to start with you, right? And don't tell me be away from her fixing houses for 6-8 weeks, and that helps you.
I'm laughing because I got away with the last question. Yay! Anyway, I'll answer this one. Let's move on very quickly. Let's do this question. Where's the heels? No, literally, I find my peace.
You muted yourself. You're on mute, Annie.
Muted, right?
Okay.
So now everything everyone said. I got away with the last question, Lisa. That gives me joy. That gives me most joy. So let's move on very quickly to this question, right? Everything everyone said so far is part of how I find my peace, I suppose. I think of making time just to talk for the sake of it, to have conversations, and to be. I'm the happy guy around the house. It's like, what's happened to you? I'm just happy. I think I find something in that. I think finding my happiness in life as a whole. I think that matters. I'll say to anyone, find your purpose, find what you like doing, and get into it. The conflict will come, but you have to find. So I just retreat into what I like doing. And saying, if I have to disengage, as Jay said, I disengage and I run the other way very quickly. So somehow or another, I don't know how. Well, it's a Nigerian thing. In Nigeria, it's customary to have separate rooms, separate everything, separate sitting. I got my own living room. My son's got his own living room. My wife's got her own living room. We'll come together in her living room every so often, but literally we can escape to our rooms and find our peace. Of course, and I say we'll make time to talk. Listen, I'm the happy one in the house. I'm the jovial one. And she's like, why are you so bloody happy? What's happened to you? Because there was a time when I wasn't that happy, when I was misery guts, really. But I found my joy and I found my happiness, right? I find that. I'm glad you don't admit sex dies. Tell everyone. Tell them. Yes, it dies in menopause. Sorry, people, if you think otherwise. No. So I was talking to a friend of mine this evening. She's like, I'm 49. I'm like, yeah, I know you're 49. I met a hunk. I'm like, and you ain't gonna do nothing with him. So why are you talking about it? That's Annie's well-being, right? Look, I think finding time to just to have a laugh. That's why I say, and don't hold on to anything for too long. Like I say, because 1 minute you get screamed at, next minute we're having a laugh. That's the way I'd like my house to be. So almost everything's forgotten instantly. You have to have that mentality, and let's move on. Like you say, I said earlier, Lisa. It's not personal. It's not even aimed at you, even though you're the recipient, you're the victim of the abuse for a second or two. You can't just move on. Just say, oh well, another episode. Let's see what happens tomorrow. I can see Jay's dying now. Jay's thinking. I'll leave it there, I think, Lisa.
Thanks for that. But I like your mentality around it. Realizing that it's not you. Yes, you're the recipient. Unfortunately, you're the only one there. But it's not you, and not taking it personal. I think that's so important. So I love a lot of the mindset um, tips that you give, and that the things that you work in your marriage. So I appreciate you being here and
There's
sharing.
one practical one I would love to, if I can add this, please. I
Yes,
think it's
please.
important for me in my household anyway. I think we let my wife indulge herself in what she likes. Her thing is the dogs. So yes, there's time I used to walk the dogs religiously. I'm like, no, you walk the dogs. You spend time with your babies. Talk to them if you want. Do what you like, right? So that gives her joy. And I'm sure if you saw my Halloween posts, my house is full of quirks, which is the witches and the ghouls and the skeletons. And, my son cried. My son goes crazy. He's like, Mom, stop buying that stuff. I'm like, no, let her do what she likes. It's what she likes. And I say, I let my wife indulge herself, whatever it's. When we get to that age, middle age, you find your real quirks, and you might as well go all in. Nah, that's why I say I'll leave it there.
Thanks for that. One thing I do want to touch on a little bit. I know for many women, and like you said, sex stops after a while. And this is because we don't understand what's happening, and it's because of menopause. But there are options to help with that. Hormone replacement therapy is one of them, which is why I'm really excited that the FDA removed that black box label, as I was talking about earlier in the show, remove the warning off of the medication. Because one of the ways to bring back libido, help with vaginal dryness, and a lot of the issues that prevents that intimacy is hormone replacement therapy, which is very safe. So moving that warning hopefully gives women that option, hopefully gives doctors that information to tell their patients, listen, this is an option that you can use, so that we don't, maybe next 5 years, we won't be saying the same thing. Sex stops after a while, because it really doesn't. It's because of the hormones, and women don't know their options that can help. So hopefully we have that more research, more information coming out. And just want to quickly answer uh, Sharon's question about how it affects indigenous people. Again, we need more research. Most research, not just for menopause, most research across the board for different topics are done on white populations and white men in particular. So we don't have a lot of information when it comes to menopause, when it comes to mixed race populations, Black populations, indigenous people. Hopefully, again, because we're having these conversations more often, the powers that be, researchers say, okay, this is something important, and start to go into those areas. So thanks for that question. David, how do you deal with your self-care? I know you also moved to a beautiful country. Does that help with your self-care?
Tara and I have been away from the States now for 4 years now, being and living in Colombia for 8 months, living in Mexico for 2.5 years, and now here in Bangkok, Thailand for the last, 6 months. And, it does take a lot of stress on, us as a relationship, us as a business, and then us individually, and then being away from home as well. And so I think, some of the key things that we put in place, like I talked about earlier, was really being able to just being preventative with, expectations, and, knowing what time of the month it is, what time of the week it is, hey, and another thing is, we talk about menstrual cycle, but as we get older, we also have to eat, and make sure we get enough protein and we don't spark off in the morning. That then gets into the menopause and the other issues as well, because we all are humans at the end of the day, and we have to feed ourselves. And that's something that I've known, that I'll look at Tara and I'll be like, hey, hold on, it's early morning. You haven't ate. I haven't ate. Let's get something to eat. So it's being preventative as well, and not having that ego, not having that pride, and not being stubborn, right, to get out of the old ways. Because, Sean talked about, hey, you used to do this and you don't do this anymore. Well, yes, in a way, but there's things that we got to do, to be able to continue those that love and that, that connection. So I think one of the biggest things is just having the connection, having the communication, and then just being responsible enough to control your emotions. And that's easier said, right? I can say it right now, but in the heat of the battle, when everything else comes up, hunger, upset, business, relationship, all those things, especially, being outside your normal comfort zone, it takes a toll. So I think just the emotional awareness and me making sure that I take care of me first, and then I can take care of her. Because that's what we always say is, hey, let me take care of these two thumbs, because I can point at you, but these other four are at me. And 9 times out of 10, what you're saying, right, or what I'm saying that you're doing, I'm doing the same thing. I can only point it out on you because I'm doing it. And so when we have that dialect and we have the humor and we can laugh about these conversations, be open and honest about these things, it makes it a whole lot better. So I love this conversation. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Annie. Thank you all, for having this amazing conversation. And hopefully those of you that are listening, don't put your nose up. Don't think about this something different, because I got some news for you. I like facts. There's 1 billion women that are going into menopause by 2025. So buckle up, buttercups. And we have to understand that denial is not a strategy. And I think so often we deny on all aspects of our life, from our business, from our technology, from our relationship, from our health, our wealth, our weight, our money. We deny these things, and that denial just stacks up, and it becomes resentment. And then it becomes where we don't take constructive criticism as well. That is the biggest key when we go to, try to help each other. Or that change part that we talked about earlier. Don't talk about change or telling somebody else about them. So that's what I got on this.
Thank you so much. That important part, you have to take care of yourself first before you could take care of your partner. That stood out for me. That's just, and I think everybody knows it intrinsically, maybe, but to remind yourself that, hey, I need to eat. A simple thing as making sure you have a meal and your blood sugar doesn't drop low, and then maybe something is said and it takes, it could go out of whack. That's so important. And yeah, this month is World Diabetes Month. Menopause causes your blood sugar to be uncontrolled. Many women going through menopause end up being diabetic. So a simple thing as making sure you have balanced meals is so important for that self-care. So thanks for that. Jay, what do you do for your self-care so you could support not just your wife, but the 3 lovely ladies you have also living with you?
So self-care in my household is very simple. Tend to the needs of the household so you don't get in trouble. Self-preservation. I think, going back to what Eddie was talking about, really is that be useful thing that he was absolutely true. If you're able to take care of putting away the dishes, right? Washing the laundry, doing things like that, that helps, right? And it minimizes those instances where you do have those heated engagements. And of course, making sure that your LinkedIn live events don't take over your life like it used to. So those things, being mindful, I think, is really important in a relationship, whether you're in your early 20s or in your early 40s, right? You have to be mindful of the other person. And that means everything, right? From emotional mindfulness to physical and health mindfulness. And when you get that, you're not always going to get it right, like I said earlier, but at least you have the mindset to be able to adjust and adapt and to be able to help, to engage when needed and disengage when needed, to provide humor where humor is needed, to stop making jokes when it's absolutely important to stop making jokes. Because there are times, right? There are times. And so it's going to be a learning process throughout your relationship. You know, God bless Sean, man, because that's a long time, you know, and it's a long time of learning. It's a long time of learning. And so as we look at statistics, as we look at studies, we should really look at the person, right? Look at them and love on them, no matter what, right? Don't be like, I think, Sean, you said it, right? It was like, we have to understand that the person is not the enemy. You got into this relationship for a reason. You love them. Continue to love them. And the way you show love is to be mindful. Those cycles, those patterns, those things, right? That's just as important as, you know, saying I love you. Really, it is. That is a form of saying I love you. I think those are all the things that to me is self-care. That to me is care for the household and care for your partner, right? And it's in science. Man, that, you know, lioness isn't, you know, just out there doing her thing, right? She's trying to survive. The lion is trying to bring home, you know, all the things to make that lioness happy so that she makes, you know, the household happy or the den happy, whatever. But, you know, I'm just saying, in science and in biology, in animals and in human beings, there's a cycle and there's patterns and there's ways that we interact with each other that just allows us to be better to one another and to survive together. Because, it's crazy out there.
Thanks for that. Being mindful. I love that. And as Sean said, the person is not the enemy. I think that's a line that will stick with me. Your partner is not your enemy. You marry that person for a reason. You love that person for a reason. And that expectation. So you all talked about knowing when the person's cycle is. That works up until perimenopause. And then that cycle changes. And hopefully your partner is able to tell you that. Sometimes it's twice a month. Sometimes it gets longer. So imagine having your cycle twice a month, which is not just, okay, you're having your period, you're losing blood, you're losing energy, you're more fatigued, but you still have to go to work and spend 8 hours for the day there producing. And then the expectation is she comes home and will cook and clean and take care of the children while going through all of these things. And that's just one symptom. There are over 100 symptoms, right? So I love that you all are talking about being mindful, knowing her cycle. To me, that's really important because you know when you need to support her more. Asking those questions, how can I support you? That to me is very important. So thanks for that. Sean, you wanted to add anything about how you take your self-care? I know you talked about last time sending your wife to have a me-day, but what do you do for Sean?
Well, and as you gave that question, Lisa, I thought of that classic line, put on your own oxygen mask first. And, you know, to piggyback on what Jay was saying, I absolutely agree. Being mindful, and I add on a layer of curiosity. Like, I ask questions. You know, I don't assume, because we all know where that leads. Ask questions, you know, is it a 28? What day is it in your cycle? Because she tracks it still. And as you just said, Lisa, it's gone haywire. You know, it's shorter runs, longer runs, extra runs, like it's nuts. But being mindful and just asking, like, hey, seems like things aren't running right with you. You look worn out. You look, maybe not say that, like, are you doing okay? Do you need some extra support? How can I step up? Because if you just say you look run down, that doesn't always go well. And I don't usually do that. But self-care for me, not only about sending her away, I have my times where it's just me. Like, I wake up at 5 a.m. I'm first one up in the house, and I get the coffee going, and I go for a walk on my own, just me. No son, no wife, no me. I get to reorganize my thoughts, be mindful with myself and where I'm at, so that I can be mindful for my household. And other events, like I go away and do things on my own. I have to go do a visa run sometimes in Mexico, and I just go over there for 2 days by myself. And it gives me time to recollect, breathe, and say, okay, now I'm more prepared to handle the roller coaster we're on. And I say that on purpose, the roller coaster we're on. I learned long ago, love is a decision, and I make it daily. Right? No matter what, it's a decision, because that romantic, it comes, it goes. It really, science says it lasts about 2 years and it's basically gone. That swoony, movie stuff, it doesn't last more than 2 years. But daily I decide to be with this woman. To go back to David's comment about be impeccable with your word. I made a covenant 34 years ago, till death do us part. Plus, I put a little competition. I'm like, I'm going to beat my parents. They lasted 15 years. I won. I win. And all my old friends that got married before us are all divorced. So we're stubborn as an old goat. We've been through highs and lows, infidelity, falling in love with another person, and it's been up and down, but it's taught us to rip off all the junk and deal with our traumas, deal with our triggers. I think raising our son at this point has really helped that, going through menopause while we're raising a young son. And, Paulette was talking, you guys were talking earlier about the magic of chocolate. Yes, I understand the magic of chocolate. Sometimes the magical item is a juicy steak, because her iron levels are down or something like that. And I put it in the comments. I learned long ago, halt. When conflicts are rising, when tempers are flaring, halt. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. If anybody in that communication is feeling one of those, back off. You got to reset, take a pause, and deal with that, because you cannot keep a clear head if any of those are dealing with you. Because we all know, if you're not sleeping enough, if you're hungry, we've seen the Snickers commercials, right? Where that person turns into somebody else and they hand them a Snickers bar. Angry, if somebody cut you off on the road and you're just, you're not going to react well with your partner. When she's raging due to hormone surge or whatever, and she's feeling hot one minute and freezing this next, we call it the personal thermostat. But it's about being there for our partners, being there for yourself, so that you can manage it. And even sometimes I do emergency times where I go out and stand in the grass barefoot, do some deep breathing, because the environment in the house is raging. Because we've learned one thing: if one person spikes up, it carries the whole environment up if you let it. So one of us goes outside, goes for a walk, takes some breaths, bring it back down so that we can regroup and approach it wisely.
Sean has just given these lines. Love is a decision. Wow, love that. And that acronym HALT, I think being in menopause, it's usually all four at the same time. So you're right. You can't make logical decisions. You can't have a calm conversation if you're going through all of those at the same time. So I love that you shared that. I just want to say hi to Dr. Yvonne. Welcome. William, hi, welcome. Mike. I'm not sure if you're OG Mike on YouTube, but welcome. Annie, are you not sure if you're saying something? You're on mute.
Mike is OG Mike on LinkedIn or on YouTube.
Okay, great. So we have gone over time, but this was a really interesting conversation. I think we need to have a part 2, honestly. But just wanted to give people the opportunity just to say how we could connect with you. You shared so much, and I think if you're not connected with these people, you need to. So just let everyone know, and please put it in the comments on LinkedIn as well, so we could connect with you. But just let persons know how they could connect with you, and if you have anything that you want to share with persons, go to a website or anything like that. Sean, you could go ahead. You're on mute.
Yeah. I actually was punching in a link in the comments so I can just hit go. So as I said before, I work with high achieving people and their partners. I actually have the counseling side, like Paulette mentioned. I trained in university on counseling. I was a pastor of a church for a year. And I studied coaching with like Tony Robbins and other levels. And learning to help people, to guide people through transitioning from an old identity, or especially an identity they've been holding on to that their body's been telling them a long time it's time to let it go because it doesn't fit. It's like that old jacket. You keep it. It doesn't really fit, but I can't let it go. And the new jacket isn't ready, right? You haven't found the perfect jacket at the market, or your identity hasn't fully formed. I have a process called REAL, or Real Mastery, where I guide people to reframe their identity so they can stop seeing change as loss and see it as an evolution, a growth. Learn to embody their strengths. Let's acknowledge where they're strong already. Reconnect with what's true underneath all of this stuff. Align with purpose. I think Annie said it, about finding your purpose. I disagree with finding your purpose. You just got to shut up long enough and your purpose will find you. You're not going to chase it. But, so that your decisions can come from values instead of fear, and leverage support, which is why I love being on panels like this, because we aren't meant to do this alone, right? We do better in community. Whether it's our partner, our neighbors, our online connections, that's where we grow best, where you've got a safe, supportive space. If you want to talk to me about identity work and how it can strengthen your relationship, I'm offering a no cost identity clarity call. It's short, but usually it just takes a small conversation to cause a shift that changes everything. And I'm putting my link in the comments on LinkedIn.
Okay, lovely. Thanks so much for that. Jay, how can we connect with you? I know you have a show. I can't remember the dates on. Please remind me.
Well, it's every 2 weeks. I do have a show with Americo. I am in 2026 going to resurrect Storytime with Jay and Friends. It's been a while since I've been off the stream, so I need to jump back in. But you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I usually am. And you can also visit my website. That's ruleyourstory.com. Global.Media.com. And you'll find some of the books that I'm published in, and you'll find the book that I authored for myself and for a bunch of other people. RuleYourStory.com, right? The book is The Rules of Engagement in Storytelling. And two fine people on this panel actually helped me put that together. And that's Paulette and Annie. And so I appreciate their help. So if you know the work that they do and the insights they've given, man, I cannot tell you how much that meant to me. So I just wanted to shout them out. But yeah, find me there. Find me on LinkedIn.
Thanks for that. David, I think it's easier if you tell us what day you don't have a show, because I think you had a show this morning or last night. You're always on LinkedIn. I love your shows. Please let people know how we could connect with you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. David Jones, you guys know that owner, CEO of the Hello LLC. You guys can definitely go to our amazing Biz in a Box. It's more than an old, crusty, dusty website that you can read. It is an experience into our metaverse, into utilizing AI and agents. The future is here. Upgrade your business. So we upgrade your website. We upgrade your foundation, your systems. It's not all about metaverse. I know a lot of people say they have the metaverse people, but we literally build your systems, build your foundation, and help you really pivot into the future, because it's here. And, yes, we have a show. It's in the metaverse, so we don't have to be on the old school StreamYard where I got to show my face. Our avatar gets to show up and utilizing, this new engagement. So definitely make sure you guys come and check out our live shows that we have on Tuesdays, every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, where we have the AI Ed Show. And then definitely check out our Getting Naked podcast. Tara and I talk about our amazing travels and our life experience and our business in Metaverse as well. One of the first podcasts in Metaverse. And then, you guys make sure you go to our website and get our free guide, where if you want to learn how to implement new strategies into your business, go get that. We got 5 of them. And then at the end of the day, change your energy, change your world. And one of the things from the last questions, we talked about taking care of your health. I'd have to say at 42, I was able to run my mile in 5 minutes and 51 seconds about 2 weeks ago. That's pretty damn fast if you ask me. And, when I first started, I was running 8, 10, 12-minute miles. And that's how we take care of our health. So your health is your wealth. And that's what got us here. So make sure you continue that path and your path of your health first. You take care of everybody else. So with that being said, thank you, Lisa, and everybody else for this amazing day.
Wow. That is impressive. Annie, I see you off mic. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry, I didn't know I was off mic. Where was I? I put my profile into LinkedIn. Welcome. Even if it's not just for part 2. You need to find a conversation you can have, because I think middle age is a time where we can do great things.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's a calling for sure, and calling for David and for Jay. So do come back sometime, right? Mm-hmm. And look, LinkedIn is my home. LinkedIn is where you find me. So I've got many things going on, but I need to get through this month, and then I can focus a bit more on my events. Even if you want help with the books, whether it's writing them, publishing them, it's even marketing them, making them bestsellers. Guaranteed. Let's talk. If anyone has any remedy for mice, do let me know. I'm not tormented.
A cat, Annie. A cat.
Yeah, the cat's in Cornwall. That's about 7 hours away each way. So I can't go and get my cats. My cats will love it.
Phone the council and get the mice catchers out. Rodent catchers, or whatever they call them. The council can come out and do it for you.
Okay. I'll try that. I mean, someone said white vinegar today.
It's about £30, and my mum had a couple came in her house and ate her cereal, and she phoned the council. Although she owned her house, they still sent somebody out, and they got through the whole of a pipe that somebody had drilled wrongly. It was the size of a pencil, and these mice can do something very clever with all their bones and go all so small they can be the size of a pencil. But anyway, that's exciting, isn't it? So
Yes,
do you want me to tell you about me or
yes,
not?
yes, please.
Okay, well,
Let's
it's
change the
not.
Yes,
conversation.
yes.
I can't run half a mile, let alone a mile. I can't walk at the minute, so I've got a funny hip. But I think the thing that I do obviously is now I'm a grown up. I sort of write children's books, mental health, self-help books for kids, but really they're helping adults too. So they're the sort of books that an adult reads to a child and then they go, oh, I didn't know that stuff. So it's about emotional intelligence and teaching you to remember your inner strength, your gut instinct, your, teaching your subconscious mind that you're not in charge, your conscious mind's in charge, and helping you to reason, which is kind of my thing. But I must very, very quickly tell you before I disappear, very, very, very funny story. My mum, I was an absolute moo every time it was my period at home. Absolute moo. I used to do terrible things, like my brother would be doing a jigsaw, I'd steal a piece just because my hormones told me to, or I was just a moo. I don't know. My other brother was an Airfix model guy. The glue would go missing and everybody knew who'd stolen the glue. But, it wasn't me, it was my hormones. It wasn't my fault. Anyway, my mum, I didn't know this. She sat down with my older brother and she had explained to my brother what was going on with me once a month. And wasn't my fault that I would do these terrible things. It was my hormones. And, and we had a dog called Bella, and Bella she'd go on heat every month. And so we knew that this happened, and we would know she had to wear a nappy when she was on heat. Anyway, the following month, something happened, and I stole something or I did something naughty. And my brother looked at me and he said, "It's okay. I know. You're just on heat." And I was like, it was like, you want to send somebody over the edge, you tell them they're on heat, but it's one of those things that stuck with me as like humor. Now as an adult, I find that hysterical. And and you could imagine, like the word menopause, I mean, this is something, Sean, I'm sure you've thought of yourself. I just think it's about putting men on pause. Men, just go on pause for a moment, take the pause button, hit a break, understand what the menopause is all about. It's basically giving you the option to press the pause button. And I think that is what we are all trying to say in a roundabout way, is that we all need to understand each other, understand that we all need to be mindful of each other, and kindness never hurts. Curiosity I absolutely adore, and I think that if we are looking after ourselves, you can't pour from an empty jug and all that. Exactly the same thing with the oxygen mask. Looking after ourselves is something that we all teach everybody else to do, but we're not always very good at perhaps doing it to ourselves or for ourselves. So I think it's really important that we talk about that, because we can't be the best for our partners if we're not in the right place for ourselves. So I think you're absolutely right, Lisa. That was really important. But yeah, I'm not, never, I will be ever again on heat. But, just so you know, that was what I had for many years, and my brother never let me forget it. And I think I was sort of in my late 30s when I had Ben, and then I had an instant hysterectomy, and my brother said to me, "Oh, that's it, no more on heat." And I was like, not the time, not the place, go away. But I get it. But, you know, I think it's worth mentioning that we have to keep that sense of humor going. It's key, you know, and just to remember that the menopause means putting men on pause, right? That's what it means. It's not that we're putting you on that no or the chucking you out. We're not putting you out of the rubbish. We're just putting you on the pause button, and we'll come back to you when we're ready.
When
Okay,
we're ready.
when we're ready. Back to you, Lisa.
Yes, I actually had a new connection text me, send me a DM on that today, that he was wondering if women thought the same thing. So it's funny to hear you say that. Yes, we're putting men on pause for a little bit. But I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who was on the panel, everyone who showed up live and engaged and reshared the event. This was incredible. The conversation was open and honest, and I really appreciate that. I know it's after midnight in the UK, so thank you,
Yeah.
Paulette. I know Annie doesn't sleep, so it's okay. But thank you, Paulette, for staying to the end. Thank you, David, for waking up at 4 a.m. to be here. It just means that I am surrounded by wonderful people on this LinkedIn community, and I really appreciate you all. For those of you who are going through menopause or know someone who is going through menopause and they're struggling with symptoms, they're frustrated, overwhelmed, please reach out. Let's have a conversation. Um, yes, I support women to take HRT because it helps with a lot of symptoms, but there are women who can't go on medication or just choose not to start with medication, which is fine. And that's where I work my magic with my holistic programs. So let's have a conversation and let's see how we can support you. We will be back in the next 2 weeks with another conversation, 5 p.m. Eastern, on another topic on menopause. But thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone. 2 hours, an hour and a half. We're supposed to end, but you know, we stuck around.
If you're on our YouTube,
Sorry?
please, if you're on YouTube, please like our video, like today's video on our
Yes,
YouTube
please.
channel. Like the video, comment,
Yes, please
and
subscribe to
subscribe, please.
both our channels. Have a good night, everyone. Take care.
No, those channels there as well. So subscribe to all of them, right?
Yes, please put
Yeah,
it in the
whichever one
chat
you're on.
so that we could subscribe
Right.
to each other's channels. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Ah, no, okay.
Global.Media.com and celebrate it with or without champagne or rum. She's success with Global.Media.